Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Laowa 10mm 2.8 autofocus lens. Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Laowa 10mm 2.8 autofocus lens. Yes, it's Laowa's first autofocus lens, and this is for Nikon and Sony in autofocus. I've had the Laowa 12mm before for many years, and I can just say straight off the bat that the build quality, the design, very impressed, much better than the old lenses, and super happy with that. So let's get into it. I'm going to be doing a quick review, telling you my thoughts of it. I've had the privilege of shooting with it 3 or 4 times now, and I'll give you my impressions of that shortly. So first off the bat, I wouldn't recommend this lens if you are getting into landscape photography, or if it's your first time getting into that genre or shooting ultra wide. It is a bit tricky to compose and to shoot with. I would recommend this lens for people who've been shooting landscapes for a while and are maybe getting bored with just a wide angle focal length of like your 16 to 35 or something like that, and you're just looking to get a fresh perspective on landscapes and areas you've shot before. That's where I've really enjoyed shooting with this lens, going to spots I've shot many times before and getting absolutely new compositions and new perspectives shooting with the ultra wide lens. But I will say it took me a lot longer to compose and to find my composition. I really had to think about balancing the foreground and the sky, looking at the edges, making sure I don't have any distortion on the rocks that are close to me, because ultra wide is really ultra wide. You get everything in, and that means you really have to think about your scene and how you're going to compose it. So an area where I really enjoyed shooting with the 10mm lens was when I had scenes where I could get really close to my foreground, or I had a really big element that I could get up close to. So the one place I enjoyed shooting it was Slankop Lighthouse, and you can see I could find completely new compositions. I could get very close to the lighthouse, so I could eliminate some of the hill in the background. I could eliminate some of the foreground elements I didn't want before, and I could find a nice rock pool that was close, right up under the lighthouse. And because of this, I got completely new compositions that I had never even thought of looking before, and I have shot at that lighthouse many times. I've even been washed off the rocks there, lost my camera. So me and that lighthouse have a personal relationship, and being able to go and shoot at a place that I know so well and find new compositions that I actually got excited about was really amazing for me. And that's where I think the strength of shooting now with this 10mm ultra wide is going to come, and what I'm looking forward to is going to other places where I've shot before and finding new compositions with this ultra wide lens. Specifically for shooting landscapes with the 10mm lens, you really need to think about having a sky element. Because it's so wide, you're going to struggle to only focus on foreground with minimal sky. You're going to be getting a lot of sky in your image, so you need to go when there's moody clouds, maybe some nice high levels for some color in the sky, and you're going to get a lot of sky in your image. So if you're thinking about shooting landscapes with the 10mm, you really have to think about what the weather's doing as well. Think about your compositions. Now you need a strong sky element as well to try and balance the composition when you're shooting ultra wide. The only exception I would say is I got this really nice cave shot at the Patsakhat at Kogelbai. This is always a struggle because the cave entrance is so big and you're right on top of it. So this is an example of an image that would work well for the ultra wide. Another example that I haven't shot yet and I'm excited to go and shoot are forest scenes and waterfalls. Because you've got that canopy with all this, the forest and that coming in, I think it could lend itself quite well to shooting with the ultra wide. From a hardware perspective, what I do like about the new design on the Laowa lens, which I haven't seen on any other ultra wides, because they normally have a very bulbous glass in front and you can't struggle to put filters on. With the Laowa, it is a 77mm thread in the front, so I can screw on my 77mm circular filters as well as the Ninisi Swift filter system. I can pop those on, and most of my other lenses actually are 77mm as well. So that's great. I can use my existing filter system on the new lens, and that's great. I don't have to buy a specialized filter system when shooting with the ultra wide. I will say though, using the polarizer with this is quite tricky because it darkens a smaller area because you're so wide. So you have to be really careful when shooting with the polarizer. Don't put it on at 100%, dial it back a little bit, and just think about when using the polarizer with the ultra wide. Can be a bit tricky to do. But for ND filters, great, can do super long exposures. You will get a little bit more vignetting on the edge because it's so wide that when you put the filter on, it will encroach a little bit on the edge of your image, and you can just use, you need to stretch that out or crop in a little bit. So just to think about that when shooting with the ND filters. So in terms of shooting with the Laowa lens and thinking about composition, what's nice is you're basically going to be shooting the rocks that are right down by your feet when you're shooting. So have a look around when you look at compositions, look at what's close to you, and then look at those leading lines. You are going to get a little bit of distortion on the edges because it is an ultra wide lens. That is expected. It is definitely a lot better than what I've seen with other lenses, and compared to the 12mm that I have, it's much better at distortion, and the distortion correction and software is also very good at correcting that. But just be mindful when composing, move the camera a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, move it up and down, and just those very minor changes, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, can make a big difference in the distortion. And you really have to be mindful and watch the edges of your composition when composing. So have a look around at your composition and think about not distorting anything near the edge. So if you do have something like the lighthouse or something like a very strong dominant feature, don't put it on the edge of your frame. Make sure it's sort of a third in or near the center, and this will avoid any form of distortion. Another great aspect about shooting with the ultra wide is you can really show scale of a scene. And where I found this very useful was when I was shooting the fog out over Lion's Head. Normally I get a really nice tight shot of Lion's Head with the fog swirling around and that. But with the 10mm lens, I was able to really show the perspective of the fog rolling in, and you can see it rolling in all the way over the ocean, over the whole city bowl. And I even put a little person in the front just to give you the scale of how immense that fog cloud is when it moves in and how big the mountains are. So it's a great lens for giving something like great scale, especially if you put a person in and they look quite small and you have these massive mountains or something in the background. It's a great lens for capturing a really big scene and giving nice scale and proportions to that scene. And I'm going to be taking this a lot more for fog hunting. I think it's really great for giving that massive perspective. And also with using the filters, I can still get that nice swirling effect of the fog moving around the mountain. So yeah, that's my impression of the 10mm. The one area I haven't shot with it yet, and I'm very excited to go and shoot with it, is for astrophotography. I think this is going to be a great lens for shooting astro, particularly time lapses. I want to go find a nice rock feature in the Cedarburg, go set it up and leave it and watch the Milky Way just cruise past it in the background. I think for that type of photography, it's going to be brilliant. And I'm also thinking for single shots, particularly like I said with the ultra wide perspective of a person standing up on a rock with a flashlight and the Milky Way to the left or right of them, could be really nice. And I'm excited to take this lens and go shoot astro for it. And it is a 2.8, so I think it's going to be really good for the low light capabilities. And when I go and do that, I will be updating and posting about that. So make sure you follow me on my social media, Carl Gage Photography, on my Facebook, on my Instagram, and you can go and see the photos that I captured with this lens. So if you enjoy landscape photography and you are looking at just taking it to that next level, this is probably a great lens to think about getting. You just need to buy the lens. It'll work with all your filters and that with the 77mm ring thread. So it's not like a massive investment going to the ultra wide. And it's a lot of fun to play with and get unique perspectives of places you've probably visited before and shot.